हेलो एवरीवन एंड वेलकम टू दिस चैनल। तो आज हम लोग करने वाले हैं एनालॉग इलेक्ट्रॉनिक्स 1 में हमारा अगला टॉपिक दैट इज hybrid model or the calculation of H parameters. So it is an equivalent model of a transistor. It was widely used before the popularity of the RE model. Now in the case of H or the hybrid model, the parameters are defined in general terms for any operating conditions, whereas in the RE model, the parameters are defined by the actual operating conditions. Now in H parameters, the H stands for hybrid. Now one important point that is total current or voltage is going to be equal to the AC value plus the DC value. अब यहाँ पे हमारे पास है एक two port network where we have our input current as I1 and input voltage as V1, whereas on the output side we have the output current as I2 and the output voltage as V2. अब इस particular circuit में we have to take two parameters as dependent and two parameters as independent. So we have considered V1 and I2 as dependent and V2 and I1 as independent. So we can say that V1 is going to be a function of I1 and V2 and I2 is going to be a function of I1 and V2. अब यहाँ से हम लोग इसकी इक्वेशन निकाल सकते हैं. So dV1 is going to be equal to rate of change in V1 with respect to I1 with a small change in I1 plus rate of change of V1 with respect to V2 with a small change in V2. Similarly, we can write the equation for di2 which is going to be equal to rate of change of I2 with respect to I1 with a small change in I1 plus rate of change of I2 with respect to V2 with a small change in V2. अब बात करें हम लोग इन टर्म्स की नेमिंग की. सो फ्रॉम हियर वी कैन से दैट ये जो हमारा पार्ट है दैट इज गोइंग टू बी कॉल्ड एज द इम्पिडेंस एंड इसको हम लोग H11 नाम देंगे. नाउ व्हाई वी आर नेमिंग इट एज H11 बिकॉज H we are going to use for the H parameters, then one is for the input side and this one is for the input side again. अब similarly ये जो हमारा term होगा we can see that both are voltages so they are going to be dimensionless and इसको हम नाम देंगे H12. ये जो हमारा है we are going to call this as H21 and I2 by V2 we are going to call this as admittance and इसका H parameter में naming होगी H22. So as we can see that we have provided the proper namings for this particular equation. अब यहाँ से हम लोग equation को generalize करके लिख सकते हैं. So the equation is going to be equal to V1 is equal to H11 I1 plus H12 V2 and I2 is equal to H21 I1 plus H22 V2. And ये दोनों equations हमारी common base, common emitter and common collector तीनों के लिए valid रहेंगी. Now from here we are going to calculate the values of each of the H parameters. So उसके लिए first of all what we are going to do is we are going to put the value of V2 as 0 in equation number 3. तो यहाँ से हमारे पास H11 की वैल्यू आ जाएगी that is V1 by I1 when V2 is equal to 0. And same चीज अगर हम लोग equation 4 में करेंगे so we are going to get the value of H21 as I2 by I1 when V2 is equal to 0. Now we have to calculate the value of H12 and H22. So for that, we are going to put the value of I1 as 0 in equation 3 and 4. So H12 is going to be equal to V1 by V2 when our I1 is equal to 0 and H22 is going to be equal to I2 by V2 when our I1 is equal to 0. अब यहाँ पे हम लोग we are going to call H11 as the input impedance when our output is short circuited. We are going to call H21 as the forward current gain when our output is short circuited. Similarly, we are going to call H12 as the reverse voltage gain when our input is open circuited, and we are going to call H22 as the output admittance when our input is open circuited. Now let us talk about the nomenclature of the H parameters. So example के लिए हम लोग देखते हैं that we have the input impedance of common emitter. So first of all, we are going to use the H keyword. उसके बाद यहाँ पे जैसे लिखा है input impedance. So we are going to take the I from the impedance and we have to give the input impedance of common emitter. So we are going to take the E from the emitter. So the naming is going to be equal to HIE. Similarly, एक और example देखते हैं. So we have to see the reverse voltage gain of common base. So R हमने उठा लिया रिवर्स से and common base से we have taken the B. So this is how we do the nomenclature of the H parameters. Now let us talk about the hybrid model, that is the equivalent circuit. तो ये हमारे पास हमारी equation है which we have named as 1 and 2 and यहाँ पे हमने इसे थोड़ा modify कर दिया है according to the H parameters that we have seen in the previous slide. So we have the equation as V1 is equal to HI1 plus HVV2 and I2 is equal to HFI1 plus H0V2 and we are going to name these equations as 3 and 4. अब बात करें हम लोग थर्ड इक्वेशन की. So in this you can see that all the parameters, सबका हमारा जो SI यूनिट है that is volts only and in equation 4 यहाँ पे सबका SI यूनिट is ampere. तो अगर हम लोग बात करें थर्ड इक्वेशन की, so क्योंकि सबका SI यूनिट is same that is voltage, so here we can easily apply KVL. So we are going to get our equation as V1 minus H1I1 minus HRV2 is equal to 0. तो उसके बेसिस पे हम लोग ये सर्किट हमारा बना सकते हैं. नाउ सिमिलरली वी आर गोइंग टू मेक द सर्किट अकॉर्डिंग टू आवर फोर्थ इक्वेशन. अब क्योंकि यहाँ पे सबका SI यूनिट एम्पियर है, सो हियर वी आर गोइंग टू अप्लाई KCL and we are going to get the circuit for our equation 4 like this. Now the last step is to combine both these circuits. So after combining these circuits, this will be our final circuit जो कि हमारे ट्रांजिस्टर को रिप्लेस करेगा. Now talking about the H parameters in particular cases, तो अगर मैं बात करूं कि कॉमन एमिटर के केस में हमारे H पैरामीटर्स क्या होंगे, so HI is going to be equal to HIE, HF is going to be equal to HFE, H0 is going to be equal to HOE and HR is going to be equal to HRE. बात करें हम लोग I1, so we know that I1 is our input current and in the case of common emitter हमारा IB भी input current होता है. V1 is our input voltage, so VBE. I2 is our output current, so IC, and V2 is the output voltage, so here we will have the value as VCE. So that was all for this video and I will see you in the next one.